Hello and welcome to the Daily Grind here on Latte Firm Monday, the 16th of March. Hope you've had a marvelous day of maximum enjoyment, maximum satisfaction, maximum reminiscing from the weekend, maximum Dowman. Welcome to the show. Very, very pleased to have my friend Adam Keys of the Arsenal Therapy. Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Very well, thank you. I've been buzzing today, Ad. I'm not going to lie. The weekend, it actually happened. Max Dowman, it actually happened. I floated into work. I saw all of my colleagues, all of my non-Arsenal supporting colleagues, and I was just rubbing it in. Had a lovely day. And how about yourself, sir?
Yeah, good. I started today. I watched Harvey Grayson's show first thing this morning. I watched Adrian. I've listened to your pods, listened to both Arsenal Vision pods, even listened to my own show back. I've watched Max Diamond's goal so many times. And also, by the way, what an intro you just did. Absolutely loved it. So that's been on your mind all day as you were floating into work, hasn't it?
It has indeed. And listen, Ad, how many times have you watched the goal? Would you say 0 to 50, 50 to 100, 100 to 200 or more?
I'd say maybe 200. I was saying just before we came on air, my wife's away for the night. She's away with work. And before we came on, I've just been watching. I watched Rooney talk about it. I even watched Gary Neville talking about himself getting emotional watching it. I've rewatched it probably 25 times just sitting on the sofa. And yeah, unbelievable. It's just such a moment. And I was also thinking every time Gyökeres scores, especially a big goal, I just think of you and the celebration. So I imagine you were doing that on Saturday inside the ground.
Oh, I was. I was doing it at the time. I did it after the game when they were doing the lap of appreciation. I'm pretty sure Gyökeres looked over at me thinking, what the hell is he doing? But I was doing it. I was gone, mate. I was absolutely gone.
I love it.
Ah, so me too. Me too. What a glorious feeling it is to be an Arsenal fan. And listen, what a week we have ahead, as Ampalash says. Bayer Leverkusen tomorrow in, of course, the Champions League second leg round of 16. Eid for those who celebrate, obviously coming towards the end of the holy month. And of course, Easter is just around the corner. Lots of people celebrating Lent. And then it's a cup final at the weekend. I mean, wowzers, what a time to be an Arsenal fan. Tonight, ladies and gents, we're going to look back at Max because we can. It's only been 48 hours. We've got to rejoice. And then we'll look ahead to tomorrow night's fixtures. And I'm going to get Adam's thoughts on the fixtures for all the English clubs because it was a testing week in the Champions League for our clubs from the Premier League last week. A warm welcome to everybody watching. Thank you so much for taking the time to tune in today. Greetings to all of our Patreon members, channel members as well. Your support just means the world to me, and it goes a very, very long way. And I will get involved with the chat to as many people as we can. Sam says evening. Lucio's here. Thomas is here. Wolves are at it again, currently in action, playing Brentford. Hassa says, still emotional watching the trillions of clips of Gyökeres and Dowman's goal, especially Max, of course. What a team. Good evening in chat. Ulysses here. Good evening, FK. Been a while since I caught you live. Where have you been, brother? It's good to have you in the chat. Robert's here. Evening. The content has been so good this weekend. Let's keep it going with a win exactly tomorrow. That is what is most important. I do want to start with your take on the weekend. We had James on last night for a sort of weekend roundup, and he was talking about how he was in tears and how it was a very emotional afternoon for him at the Emirates Stadium on Saturday. Were you at the game?
I wasn't, no.
Even better, because we know that the stadium was rocking and bouncing. Sorry to rub it in, but presumably you watched it from on television.
Yeah.
How was the experience for you?
Pretty crazy. I at one point was doing the Gyökeres in my room watching the game. So I get banished to the upstairs room. I've got a TV up there. The wife takes the living room. And so I was running around the room like a madman. And then when Max's goal went in, it was just crazy. But I had the usual 85 minutes slumped in my chair thinking, we're not going to do this. And then I didn't see where a goal was coming from. But I was so frustrated because I thought we were playing so well. And as I was having such a good game, felt players were trying to make it happen. I just thought, I don't see where we're going to get that break of luck, especially after the penalty not being given. So then the way we wanted, and I'm now really glad we didn't get that pen because it could have been a 1-0. We got a pen, trudged over the line, same narratives, but actually two big open play goals and Max stealing the show. I feel like it's a bonding moment between the team, the fans, and it's just ruffled so many feathers. But it's actually brought some people back towards Arsenal again.
Well, if we think we had it hard in the stadium, and of course, like you just said, 85 minutes, and you're in your house wondering what was going to happen. Aidan Ains says, I was at work, but had my phone on me for keeping an eye, and I just saw the Gyökeres notification and started doing the celebration. I don't know what's worse, being in the stadium and sort of watching the clock at 86, 87, 88, watching from home in the comfort of your own home, watching the clock, or being at work and not even watching and just keeping an eye on for that notification to come through. I don't know. But what a euphoric feeling it was. And when we got the first goal, Victor Gyökeres, obviously you say the celebration, and the Max Dowman goal that followed thereafter. I mean, it was one of the most glorious endings to a game, one of the most glorious Emirates moments that I think we'll look back on in many, many years to come. A bit like we do with the Reece Nelson moment against Bournemouth. It really was spectacular on Saturday, wasn't it, Ad?
Yeah, and I think the goal itself, I've seen people call it a tap in and whatnot, but the precision of Diamond's header, first up, to go straight past his man, the pace, the power, and just how effortless he makes that look. Then the touch and the shimmy inside, left foot, right foot, bang. People overlook, I think it's the seventh furthest the player has travelled to score. And Martinelli against Chelsea was one place above him in the rankings. To run that distance is pretty spectacular. And then to just slow down and do it with such ease at the end, that's composure, arrogance, self-belief, whatever you want to call it, but pure ability first and foremost. And the Kaka comparisons aren't going to go away anytime soon. But what a moment.
Indeed. By the way, just a quick shout out. Do get your latte firm fix on TikTok. And I've just realized I've shared the wrong slides. Have I shared the wrong slides?
No, that's TikTok. Or no, that's Instagram, isn't it?
I have shared the wrong slide. Do you know what? This is from the Daily Grind yesterday, but we can do this again as I get the right slide deck. What a feeling it was, like you say, Max Dowman scoring the most incredible sort of goal. And like you say, the audacity for him to do it, breaking away from a corner kick, nodding it down, running past his man. I think Mikhailichenko, whatever his name is, had his arm sort of across him. He puts Dewsbury Hall on the floor, and you can see what he felt about that. I guess neither of them wanted to be responsible for bringing down a child.
Well, he did it twice. Just before, a few minutes before that, he actually put Dewsbury Hall on the ground as well. So I think Adrian Clark had it in his video where it's right in the center of the pitch and he just puts his foot in the ball. Dewsbury Hall goes one way and Max just pops it off with ease. It's just the swagger and just the sheer confidence. It's crazy.
We're going to talk about the lineup for tomorrow. But does he get in the team for you tomorrow? I mean, is what he's done worthy?
Not for me. I think an unbelievable moment, and you can't take that away. He's written himself into the history books. He's swung a title in our favor because that's very much where we're at now. And it was actually funny. On Monday, I tweeted that I'm throwing a kid into the mix in a title race when the opposition haven't prepped for it is such a joker card to play. It can break games open. And that's how Arteta should use Max in the way that Fergie used Makeda in 2008, 2009. And just to clarify, he was one of the top prospects in world football at the time whenever he did that. I didn't expect it to happen 5 days later and for Max to actually do that and win us the game. But I think we also have to be aware of the game state. We were chasing something. Arteta was throwing on attacking players, telling people to go forward and go and win it. And I think we also have to be aware that Max is still growing physically, mentally, and everything else that's happening. So there's times to use him this season. I think if we're chasing a goal or we're in control, and then whenever we get enough of a lead, maybe he gets a start. Make sure he's actually on 3 appearances, so he only needs 2 more if we win the league to get a medal. But yeah, I think a start tomorrow night is just a bit too premature because this is where you need your experienced heads to manage the emotion.
Well, we'll come on to the lineup towards the end of the show. Paul says Dowman's goal was a sheer joy. Big Mike, who's gone early, says, evening all, wine gums for my snack check. Save that for a Friday, Mikey. Save it for the late night lounge. Abdul Gunner says the way he passed the ball longer in front of him so he doesn't have to take a lot of touches shows his natural talent. And the beauty of the pencil, welcome to the show. Wow, what an excellent evening this has turned out to be. 2 of my favorites on the live stream. Salute to you. Greetings to all in the chat. You're getting a lot of love in the chat.
It's always a pleasure.
Thank you so much. So listen, I brought up an image on the right-hand side, courtesy of Thierry Henry, who says he had goosebumps at young Max Dowman scoring the goal. And like I said, just the sort of night that it was at the Emirates Stadium. And let's not forget, it was a pressure win for us. I mean, you talk about Max and his eligibility to win a medal. I can't believe we're talking about that. But where does it leave us in the title race? I mean, 9 points clear now, 7 games to go for Arsenal. Are we absolutely clear favourites now, Ad, for you?
Yeah, I think we're clear favourites. We've also got 4 home games in our last 7. I think Everton was a really tough game. Their away record is really, really good. They're a good side. They've got good players. I look at Dewsbury Hall. I think Chelsea wasted a year of his career, and I thought he was good in the game. I thought Dwight McNeil was really good. Michael Keane came in, although he should have been sent off and considered a penalty. I thought he had a good game. Same with Ndai. Yeah, overall Beto as well. He's always a handful. So they do have quality players. They're well organized. They're brave when they go forward. So that wasn't an easy game. It was one we had to get over. And I think us doing that and doing it so late, and I mentioned the bonding moment, I think sometimes you need that to really lift the team, and they'll all be floating. And as I said, a 1-0 win, we could have got over the line and done it that way. But doing it the way we did, everyone is going to be buzzing in that dressing room. And then for the City result, because I guarantee every one of those players watched that game, especially after what happened to us, and they'd feel 10 foot tall today. So for me, I think it's the point where we have to say we're favourites. We have to go and just go on a big winning run. It's 4 wins in a row now. So it's a big, big moment for us. But also, I think City have more drop points in them. First, though, we've got a Carabao Cup to win.
We do indeed. The games are going to come thick and fast over the next few weeks. And actually, when you think about the fixtures and the running, like you say, Manchester City away is our only fixture outside of London from now on until the end of the season. We have it's huge, absolutely massive when you think about that. I mean, obviously subject to Champions League qualification and where we might sort of end up, but domestically, we're not having to leave the capital. It's tremendous in the league. So, yeah, really, really pleasing. And listen, on Max, Abdul says, I'd give him at least 30 minutes tomorrow. But we shall see. Ampalash, this has just caught my eye. Says first goal was in a shop, watching and listening with headphones. All of a sudden, jumping and hands in the air or whatever the heck I was doing. All the people looked at me and moved away pretty quick. Yeah, I can imagine that sort of scenario. Keep the chat coming. Mohammed here says, big up guys, big up FK, my dear friend. Missed talking to you via the Twitter Spaces. Hope to have me here soon. Pray for Gaza, pray for Palestine, Mohammed. Hope you and your family are all well and keeping well. I'm in trouble, says big up FK and guys. Fantastic to see Adam on the show, says Andrew, one of the most intelligent analysts around. I cannot disagree. Do check out the Arsenal Therapy podcast. It is tremendous. And my popcorn's out. No, you're very welcome and very, very deserved. My popcorn's out for an excellent conversation and analysis. You have my respect for all your excellent work. Thank you, Beauty of the Pencil. Really, really generous comments tonight. Let's move on and let's talk about tomorrow and what's to come on Wednesday. Champions League football is back. Second leg, round of 16. We'll talk about our fixture in a second, get your thoughts on the starting lineup and what's going to happen. This is the results after match day 1 of the last round of 16. And you can see a bit of a testing week. Galatasaray beating Liverpool. That's the return fixture at Anfield. Bayern Munich cruising. They were, of course, Leverkusen's opposition at the weekend. Spurs have some work to do after being pumped 5-2 away at Atletico Madrid. That was so amusing. Newcastle, unfortunately, just couldn't hang on. Barcelona getting an equaliser through Lamine Yamal at St James's quite late. We, of course, getting a draw, also a late equaliser from the spot from Kai. Bodo Glimt are doing some mad things in the Champions League this season. 3-0 winners against Sporting. PSG look like they are certain to go through, but they have a second leg at Stamford Bridge. And Real Madrid, who pumped Manchester City, and Kylian Mbappe is back for the Spanish team as they face up to Manchester City at the Etihad. So we'll talk about Arsenal, but what are your thoughts on the Premier League sort of showing, and what are you expecting from the English clubs in the second legs?
I watched the Newcastle game. I actually watched it in the fan zone next to St James's Park. So it's with 2 of my Newcastle mates, and I think Newcastle were really, really unlucky in that game, and I think they're going to cause Barcelona trouble at the Nou Camp. So Barca play such a high line, and Newcastle play very aggressive pressing football, and they like to spring forward on a high line. So Gordon will be back. He was out with illness and came on, actually made a big difference when he came on. Alanga was a constant threat, but his cement blocks on his feet once he gets into the final third. Harvey Barnes again, another threat. So they've got players that can punish this type of football. And I thought Tonali was excellent. Lewis Hall was absolutely brilliant in that game. And I just see it as a game where Newcastle could cause problems. I think both teams will score. But similarly, Barcelona have so many technicians at the Nou Camp, you just never know what would happen. You also don't know what Newcastle turn up week to week. So if the same version turn up, I think they could cause problems. But similarly, if it's the one we've seen recently in the league, honestly, Barca could beat them 4-1 or something like that. It's that unpredictable. I'm kind of hoping that City go and put in a big show. And I know Bellingham's back in the squad as well. And potentially draw 3 each, go all the way to extra time and have some tired, emotional, draining performances in that squad ahead of Sunday. But let's wait and see there. Tottenham are out. Let's be real there. Liverpool, Galatasaray. That's an interesting one because Galatasaray have some good players. And
they were really impressive away at Juventus, weren't they, to kind of get through?
They were, yeah. As I said, they've got quality in that squad. And it's kind of not what you would associate with Turkey, but the quality's there. They're going to cause problems, and Liverpool aren't a side that are performing well. But it's funny, I said to my colleague on the Tuesday before the Liverpool game, I've got a feeling Liverpool are going to win the Champions League. I was like, they're that kind of club that when they're playing badly, per side, just not organised, somehow they get that Anfield magic and it drags them to the Champions League or something mad. Then they go and lose to Galatasaray. So again, a bit like Newcastle, I don't know what version of Liverpool are turning up week to week. And if you see them at the weekend, they just look so poor against Spurs, and everyone's battering Spurs. Spurs haven't won it in the league since the 28th of December, and they drew with Liverpool. So
it's mad that Liverpool had one job. But yeah, I'm with you. I think Galatasaray is unpredictable. I'd back Liverpool. I mean, if I was, forced to pick someone, I would pick Liverpool at Anfield to overcome a 1-0 deficit. Any more than that, and it probably would have been difficult. I think Galatasaray, though, they've got a performance in them as we saw at Juventus. I agree with you. I think that Spurs are out. I think Barcelona are very capable of tearing Newcastle apart, but I also think Newcastle are capable of just, landing that sort of sucker punch blow that they might not expect. And, with their outlets, like you say, Elanga and Gordon in particular, who, of course, Arsenal are linked with and is having a fine season. They are a danger. I, like you, Manchester City, think they can do it. I think City will do it, I've got a really weird feeling that City they're going to score early and then they will just go for broke. All hell will break loose at the Etihad. And if it's to be that, then I'd rather they did it after extra time, one or two sort of sore muscles looking ahead to the weekend. Scott says this is such a big week for our quadruple hopes, he says. Lots of talk about Chelsea being unpredictable and Liverpool have been shocking. Scott also said earlier, hello from Dallas, and glad to see Adam on. He really enjoys his channel. Let's move on to the Arsenal then. So, look, it's the second leg. It was 1-1 after the first leg. What did you make of that first leg? Kai Havertz rescuing us from the spot with about 3 minutes on the clock.
It was a lot of what I didn't like from Arsenal. So I don't know about you, but there's things that I get really frustrated about with this team, and I felt some of those things were addressed on Saturday. One is the rotations of our fullbacks and wingers. I talk about Timber in the right half space a lot, and previously when our fullbacks inverted, it would have been Calafiori or Zinchenko or someone like that coming in to form a double pivot. But because we've already got a double pivot with Rice and Zubimendi, our fullbacks are rotating into advanced areas. And what we're seeing is Timber getting that ball in the pocket quite often between the centre back and the full back, able to turn, but he doesn't quite have that level of, I wouldn't say technical ability, but more that spring whenever he gets it to really hurt a team. And I think part of it is just exhaustion on his end as well. Whenever he gets that, we're not seeing many sprints from Timber at the minute. He's a player that's really grinding it out right now. But the biggest issue that I've got isn't the fullback going into those areas. It's the lack of fluidity in those rotations. So it feels like we're rotating, but then standing. And too often you see our midfielders with the ball, or Saliba whenever he's progressing, and Timber's standing still. Saka's standing still on the other side. Gyökeres through the middle. And I look at it and think, if you play that ball in what do we expect to happen? What's the next move? And that's what I saw being addressed against Everton. So I saw Timber coming in, but then I saw Saka coming in. I saw Timber going outside, and that only lasted half an hour. And then when Mascara came on, it allowed Calafiori to just roam all over, kind of paint his own canvas. And Saka did play as more of an interior when Mascara came on. But yeah, so that was one of the things that really frustrated me. But it was all about a lack of fluidity in the rotations. The other one was Zubamendi. I thought he was really, really poor. His pass map is massively concerning me. I was looking at it over the last 4 or 5 games, kind of since Sunderland onwards. And what we're seeing is just everything sideways and backwards. And that wasn't what happened earlier. If anyone's on X, I would advise you to watch Kimmo's comp that he's just put out. And it's highlighting a lot of the passes that are very obvious, what I would describe as relatively low risk. And Zubamendi's putting his foot back on the ball and passing it sideways or backwards. He wasn't doing that earlier in the season. He wasn't even doing it in January. I don't know what's gone on there, but for me, it's a major issue, and I feel it's putting even more pressure on Saliba to deliver. So that just combined with a real slow approach was very frustrating. But I think we switched off at times, and that was frustrating. That's how we conceded. The other thing, I think it was part tactical. I think Arteta knew Everton was a massive game, and there was one eye on that. So I think part of the tactical side of the game was to go out and contain Leverkusen. So I'll be honest, I didn't know much about Leverkusen coming into it, but the commentators kept saying Leverkusen after 60 minutes are known to tire. They concede regularly after that point, and they're known for conceding late goals. So I think Arteta's plan was keep it tight first 60, let's contain them, and let's try and hit them when they tire, because they were aggressive, punchy man-to-man press. And then we did improve after the 60-minute mark, but unfortunately, they had scored from a very, very soft-headed goal at a corner. And that's not something we see us conceding very often. So that they were my frustrations. But then I have to look at what happened at the end of the game. And Havertz stepped up. That's a big penalty. It took over 3 minutes. Somehow there was only 3 minutes of added time. It took 3.5 minutes before he was allowed to take the penalty. And he kept his cool and dispatched it well. So I think I was disappointed with the draw. But at the same time, it's one that you have to look at and you think, you know what, this is a two-legged affair. Arteta is learning from previous games like Bayern, where we went all out in that first leg, burnt ourselves out against Villa. And by the time the second leg came against Bayern, we were annihilated in Munich. And I think that's what he's learning now. It's 2 legs. Don't go away with a defeat in the first leg. Come away with a draw and go and batter them at the Emirates.
And are you happy that the second leg is at the Emirates? I mean, there are people on socials that are saying, if you think about our run in the Champions League last season, it was almost the other way around. We sort of battered Real Madrid at the Emirates first, and then went out to the Bernabeu when the pressure was all on them. Is that something that comforts you?
I don't know. I think it depends on the result in the first leg. I think history shows that it's more favourable to have the second leg at your ground. But we played PSV away last season in the first leg, and then put our feet up for the second leg at the Emirates. So that was a big advantage. Similarly, us beating Real Madrid at home in the first leg and having that big league, that was massive. So it's one of those, it depends on how the first leg goes. We could have gone out there and beaten them 3-0, really. At which point we're coming back, probably score early at the Emirates and then get players off at half time. But for me, we're going to win this game. I think we've got more than enough. I saw a Leverkusen side that I thought looked quite good, but reminded me a bit of Newcastle, actually, where they started really fast. They go at you very intensely, but then they fall off.
They're a bit unpredictable, I would say. Similar sort of to Newcastle. You don't quite know what you're going to get. They've had a lot of managerial change, of course. Xabi Alonso leaving, Eric Ten Hag coming in, and now their new coach. And they've lost a lot of their players, and 1 or 2 of their star players were on the verge of returning. Tillman, I think, only just made the team last week. And Bayer Leverkusen, historically, they're going for their third quarterfinal progression in their club history. And talking about conceding goals, I mean, they have been hot and cold, but actually they've only conceded Kai's penalty in their last 5 Champions League games. So defensively, they are resolute. And just to your point, the goal that we conceded from Andrick was really, really sort of frustrating because we're so dominant in situations like that. And to let the ball go through, and it's a routine that Mikel had said that they'd tried just recently, and they were showing the boys the footage of that, yet we still couldn't stop them. And it did take that penalty, that foul on Madueke, Havertz late in the game to level. If we take a look at action since so far, Bayer Leverkusen are in 6th place in the Bundesliga, as you can see on screen now. There's the eye test that I normally give our viewers. It's not been a great season for them, but they have a goal difference of plus 16. They've played 26 games this season, 13 wins in the league, so they've won half their games. They've drawn 6 and lost 7, so they've not won half of their games, if that makes sense. 45 points, some way off the league leaders Bayern Munich, who they played at the weekend, and they drew 1-1. Our form over the last few games, as you can see, courtesy of the BBC, obviously the 2-0 win for Arsenal at the weekend. And that's going to be a big sort of influence, I think, on the atmosphere tomorrow night. You know, had that result have gone any other way on Saturday, and I think there would have been a bit of trepidation, some nerve, some anxiety tomorrow, because let's face it, as good as we are in the Premier League, this tie is very much in the balance. Bayer Leverkusen are, like you say, almost unpredictable. It is 1-1. There are no away goals. Has to be settled, obviously, on the night, potentially extra time, potentially penalties. So it's all to play for both sides.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree the crowd are going to be really up for this game because of what happened. And I think it's a Champions League last 16 tie. The crowd are always going to be up for it. But I think everyone's just got such a buzz around them. And it's even, we're in a Twitter group together, just the optimism and everything, the way the mood has lifted since that, the chats within that are an example. You see the timeline, and it's just, it feels like the fan base is really, really excited right now. And I hope we come out and deliver a performance, because I think we're going to win this. I think if we score early, we could win it by a few goals. And really, we want this game done reasonably early, so it's not a long, stressful evening ahead of a cup final. But yeah, for me, the team selection will be interesting. I would go with something very similar to Saturday. But yeah, that's the big thing, how we line up. Whether Calafiori's got another game straight in his legs.
Well, let's talk about that, Ad. So this is the starting lineup, courtesy of now_Arsenal, the game on Saturday lineup against Everton. I've brought in pictures of Ben White, maybe Martinelli, because of course he didn't start at the weekend. Nketiah didn't start, but ended really well, and neither did Gyökeres, obviously coming off the bench to score, and Havertz did start. So if we think about the lineup tomorrow, and I think someone mentioned it just a few minutes ago in the chat, that I think because of that win, there's probably going to be a sense of freedom tomorrow night. Like it's all or nothing in a one-off game. And, you know, we're not thinking about long-term or 3 points or trying to keep up with anyone else. This is just about, you know, if you hold your mettle, you will go through. And if you play your football, you will win. So in terms of lineup, we're expecting Ryan to keep net. And he's been growing his hair out, which is something that I would notice as a bald man. No Jurriën Timber, who is apparently a matter of days away. So who plays for you at right back?
I mean, if Ben White's fit, but I'll be honest, I'm quite worried about Ben White. I don't think he's fit. I think Mascara coming on was both telling and even more worrying, because Ben White was warming up, then didn't come on. He hasn't played much football recently. So yeah, I think it was the cup game a month ago that he last played when he went off injured against Wigan.
Not even coming off on as a sub either. Mosquera coming on at the weekend, of course, at the hour mark.
Yeah.
For an hour, sorry. It's not looking good. But Mikel Arteta did say that he's in training. He's been unlucky with a couple of niggles, and he's in full training and he's in contention. So I think Mosquera will start tomorrow, but I think Ben White might come off the bench just in case we need him at the weekend.
Yeah, I agree. I'll be honest. I think Jurriën Timber's back for the weekend. And if you look this season at the trend with injuries, for the most part, players have been going off and they haven't been missing long periods. So there are exceptions to that. But in the last few months, especially, we've had warm-up injuries and players have been back within a week or two. Whereas before we would have that and a player would miss a month. And we are starting to see players. I think Trossard, someone that knows his body really well. And I think the minute he feels something, he goes off quickly. And he obviously missed the weekend, but Ben White, by contrast, I think his body is probably not in a great place after almost 2 years out. But I'd be fine with Mascara playing this game. I think it gives Saka more room to come in field, which again, I'm happy to see. We know who the other two are going to be defensively, the main man at the back. Left back's a question. Who
What do
would
you
you
think?
go for?
I really liked Ricky Calafiori's performance, I got to say, against Everton. I love the way that we are so much better in our build-up play when he's sort of tucking into as that sort of inverted and sort of sat outside the box of the opposition. I think Piero Hincapié is also a wonderful player. It's a difficult one. It's really difficult. I thought Hincapié was brilliant when he came on. I think because it's his former club and because it's the Champions League, I think Hincapié plays tomorrow. And listen, we might even see one of no, we're not. We're not going to see Gabriel Saliba rested. Who am I kidding? But isn't it amazing? We've got such great depth because Calafiori could step in to do either of those roles, and Capia could step in to do either of those roles. And maybe we need to keep Calafiori sort of fit and fresh. You know, maybe the cup final is on Mikel's mind, and he's just going to let one of them sort of play. Maybe Calafiori's better suited for City at the weekend, so Incapia plays tomorrow.
Yeah, I think the weekend was a great example of the starter finisher model that Arteta's talked about. If you look
Yep.
at the left back, Calafiori, brilliant in build up for what 60, 70 minutes as long as he was playing. And then he comes off, and Capier gives us something very different with an overlapper. And then he pops up, gets the assist for the goal, which, by the way, he does an incredible job not to handle that because he pushes his hands behind his back as the ball's coming in because Pickford gets a bit of a touch to deflect that ball. And then he just kind of, it comes off him kind of off his hip. Then he knees it to Gyökeres. Brilliant touch. Then he has the tackle that the crowd went mad for, which I think led to the corner for Dowman's goal. And so, yeah, he gives us something very different. It could be a similar thing tomorrow where we maybe see Hincapié for an hour, followed by Calafiori for half an hour. I doubt Calafiori starts 3 games in a week in his first week back. And this gives Arteta the option of who to choose on Saturday. Whereas I think playing Calafiori means he has to play Hincapié on Saturday. And it's worth noting as well, Italy have got playoff games. So they're playing Northern Ireland and hopefully they lose. So it's a big week for Calafiori. But yeah, that starter finisher model, we saw the same up front with Havertz and Gyökeres, and I think we would have saw a lot more of that had both Calafiori and Havertz had better fitness records this season.
Indeed, yeah. And listen, lots of shouts for White, lots of shouts for both Calafiori and Hincapié. But what a time to be supporting Arsenal. We've got so many options. We are stacked in defence, and it's great to see. Whole Milk has just gone early with midfield. Says Max Dowman's probably got double maths and biology on Wednesday morning, so he's probably not going to be allowed out on a school night. But let's get to the midfield. Norgard wasn't in the squad against Everton. I'm not sure he's going to start tomorrow, but hopefully he's on the bench because I think this sort of game, this sort of magnitude, his sort of experience, you want to have those options. But Zubimendi, Eza, Rice again to start for you. The gaffer confirming that Ødegaard is in training, potentially in contention for the weekend, but tomorrow is just too soon for him.
Yeah, the other option is Saka starts where in that 10 role, Madueke right and Eza left. But in terms of players that are on the screen, I think it's a variation of positions as opposed to names.
Who do you play on the flanks? I mean, Trossard is fit. I didn't see him in any of the training pictures, but Mikel Arteta said he's fit and ready for tomorrow. Would you maybe keep Saka on the right and drop Madueke, or what are you doing out wide?
It's hard because I love Madueke. I've loved him since he was at PSV, and he's
You have
someone that
actually. You've been on this channel before, and you've said that before.
Yeah, I've always been a huge fan of Madueke. So is Jimmy Kant, who I pod with sometimes, and I just find him one of the most entertaining wingers to watch. And part of the entertainment comes from you don't quite know what he's going to do next. But then when I kind of look honestly at the game in Leverkusen, I felt that we needed an extra ball handler in attack. And really, Trossard is the best at that, or Eza is. But with Madueke on the left, I'm not quite sure he gives you that. I also think that if you had Madueke and Nkapie, you maybe don't get that level of control. So Trossard and Nkapie is probably the parent, or Eza and Nkapie. So I would be more willing to see Madueke on the right than the left. But yeah, I'm if Havertz starts, I think you're fine having that direct runner. If Gyökeres starts, I think it has to be Trossard.
Do you know, John's just made a great point here. Saka might start on the bench because you need him against City. I'm with you. I think I'd like to see Madueke on the right. I'd like to see Trossard on the left and Gyökeres up top. And here's a curveball. I'd like to see Kai Havertz be played at left 8 because I think Havertz and Gyökeres together. First of all, Gyökeres and Trossard, they're the only two that kind of work with Gyökeres at the moment, Trossard and Gyökeres. And I think with Havertz and Gyökeres, they've got that sort of central penetration, which is something that we've just not seen in certainly recent games. We've gone back to the sort of horse shape, but who knows? I think Saka, that's a really spot on point, Jonathan. The cup final must be on Mikel's mind. You know, you talk about the games that Ricky Calafiori's got coming up for Italy. You know, he can't play 3 times in a week. You know, leave him out tomorrow, let Nkapie play, keep Saka wrapped up in cotton wool, maybe the last sort of 15, 20 minutes if he can come on. This is the sort of game again where you think, you know, Norgard, has he got the experience to maybe give 90 minutes rest to someone like Zubimendi or Rice? I mean, there's no way Arteta is going to do that in the Champions League game. But if he is thinking about Sunday, and if you're thinking about Manchester City, maybe that's what he's got to think about. I'm not sure.
I also think if you put yourself in the feet of every player, no one's wanting to sit this out. So for the players, this is the competition that they dream of playing in. And whilst we all want a trophy and every one of them does, and they'll be focused on that, none of them came to Arsenal to win the Carabao Cup. But the fear of potentially going out of the Champions League, that's massive. They've got big bonuses attached to this competition as well. So I like the idea of Havertz as an 8. I think for me, Eza is a player that he is nailed on. He has to play. I think he was so good on Saturday that I think you kind of have to ride that wave even more. But yeah, the best thing Arteta can say is get this game won early and get off. And that's all his speech should be before the game.
Indeed. Abdul says he expects Gyökeres and Martinelli to start. He says, unfortunately. Jonathan says, we're so light in midfield, missing Marino and Ødegaard. But, Jonathan, Ødegaard is back in training and the skipper should be ready for the weekend. So there we have it. There's the starting lineups from both of us. Let us have your score predictions for tomorrow. Give me the score on the night. I will do the aggregate arithmetic in my head. It is, of course, 1-1 after the first leg. Adam, where do you think the game is going to be won or lost? I mean, Leverkusen are going to probably set up with a back 3 again. They're going to double up on whoever our wide players are. They will be dangerous at set pieces. They will try to get us on the counter-attack. How do you think the game's going to go tomorrow? What's your prediction?
I'm going to go... I think we're going to keep a clean sheet. I thought Cavani was really good, but if you look back, because whenever I got out of my sulk after this game, I looked at our defensive showing and they didn't actually cause us many problems. Whenever I really looked at it, they had a lot of shots high and wide from outside the box, but didn't cause us a lot of problems. And I don't see them coming to the Emirates and scoring. So I think we've also just kept a couple of clean sheets on the bounce in the league in tough situations. So confidence is up there. I'm going to go with 3-0 Arsenal.
Oh, wowzers. Well, we have won 13 of our 16 Champions League games at home under Mikel Arteta. We're drawing 2 and losing 1. That loss came to PSG. They kept a clean sheet that night as well. Abdul says 3-1 to the Arsenal. I'm in trouble says 2-0. Sam says 2-1. Logical Nonsense says 2-0. Classic Dan just saying, I miss Ødegaard. 9-2 says Tom. No. Jonathan says 3-1 to the Arsenal. Dan says 4-1 to the Arsenal on the night. Ulysses says 1-0. I'm not sure I could take a 1-0. I think, like you, I just want to, if we score early, fly out the blocks, 2-0 sort of by half-time, 60 minutes, and just let your foot off the gas and start thinking about Wembley. Ampalesh says 3-1. 3-0 says Rob. I've enjoyed your comments.
Wise man, Rob.
Thanks for joining. Danny says 2-0. 433 says 2-1. I love it when people give the scores as well. Moot says 3-0. Saka, Eza, Calafiori. Wouldn't that be wonderful?
Love that.
Melissa says, we're on a high and we're at home. We are on a high. We are on a high. What a time to be an Arsenal fan. She says she's going 3-0. I'm in trouble, not giving me a scoreline. He's not messing around, but he just says, look, Gyökeres and Havertz to bag tomorrow. And Mike Jones says, let's do a 4-2. No, let's not. Let's just do a 2-0, 3-1 on aggregate. That'll do me. There you go, Tom. He says 10-2, not 9-2. Listen, that's been lots of fun. I think
I can't let you duck out without giving your score.
I knew it, you would. I think it'll be 2-1 on the night, and I think we'll win 3-2 on aggregate. It's a little bit close to too much tension for me, but I think we'll score. I can see Bayer Leverkusen scoring. One of the things that I've noticed, Ad, in recent games from Arsenal, and obviously you cannot, blame the players for this. You can absolutely forgive them. We're going for silverware for the first time in a long time. The longer a game goes on in a sort of drawing game state, I feel like we become emotional and a bit too desperate to try and make something happen. And, whether it's the centre-backs going long, whether it's David Raya losing composure and sort of doing things that maybe he wouldn't do, if it's the wingers trying to take on one too many players, if it's midfielders trying to shoot from distance and trying to do something a bit too special, if it's strikers being indecisive in their movements and their decisions, like I just feel, I wouldn't say panic. It could just be nerves, which is fine. They're human beings. They're really excited. They want to win these things. So I just feel with the occasion being settled on the night, if we score first, we're still only one goal in it, and there's no away goals. If they equalize, it could be a tense one. Yeah, 2-1 for me, I think, on the night, and 3-2 on aggregate. But we shall see. So there we have it, ladies and gents, boys and girls. Arsenal in action tomorrow night at the Champions League, the round of 16, second leg at the Emirates Stadium. If you are lucky enough to be coming to the game with me, please do, of course, bring your finest voices, bring all of your red, bring your colours, your hats, your scarves, make it a night to remember, because we have a chance to progress in this year's Champions League on our road to Budapest. And we will be back tomorrow night after the game with a match reaction video. We will get all of your thoughts. We'll take all of the chat as we normally do. And on Thursday, there's going to be a special Emirates Memories Moments edition of Latte Firm. I've got Wayne and Met coming on a Can You Believe It podcast takeover, where we will rank Saturday night's victory over Everton and maybe what's to come tomorrow in our top memories of the Emirates era. Was it the Arshavin goal? Was it the Reece Nelson goal? Was it the Max Dowman moment? We'll do all of that on Thursday. And then on Friday, we'll be back. Excuse me with my voice. I still haven't recovered from Saturday. So on Friday, we'll be back with a late night lounge. But there we are. Adam, it's been great fun to have you on. Hopefully you've enjoyed that. If anybody wants to follow, he is available at AdamKeys_. Tell us about your podcast.
So I am, my pod is called The Arsenal Therapy. You can find it on YouTube. You can find it in Spotify, Apple Music as well. So main videos out on YouTube, and then I put them on Spotify and Apple afterwards as well. So it's tactical stuff, around 20 minutes long. And yeah, come and check it out. Help me get out of the current algorithm madness that I'm working through. But yeah, always happy for anyone who wants to come there and have a chat. And as always, big thanks for having me on. I always love coming on here and having a chat.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate that. I've just remembered, because of the chat, Patreon members, a couple of spares for tomorrow night's game. Face value, of course, North Bank Lower. Get involved in the match ticket chat. If you want those tickets, let me know. I'll make sure that they are transferred. What else is there? Thank you to everybody listening. Drop a like on the video before you leave. It's free to do, and it's a massive help to the channel. And if you've enjoyed tonight's content as a first timer, subscribe. Where have you been all this time? If you're listening on audio platforms like Apple and Spotify, do give us a kind review. And it's always good to be talking to you guys. So we will be back tomorrow night. The Arsenal Therapy, Hassa says, is the best name. Second to Latte Film, of course. I got to say that. Great stuff as always. Look after yourselves. Enjoy the game tomorrow. We'll be back after the match with the match reaction, as I've already said. So look after yourselves. Take care. Sleep well. And good night. Take care. Bye for now.